So the flow of a project initiation process, it comes once the project executive or project sponsor has been appointed by the corporate or the organization which is initiating this project. In this video, I'm going to take you through the project initiation steps which I took to salvage a project which was almost going to early exit. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified program and project manager. This is the channel which I use to help aspiring and also practicing project managers to succeed. Hello and welcome. If you want to deep dive into understanding and mastering how to do the project initiation, I have also created a comprehensive ebook on project initiation for you, which you can also access from the link in the description below. It will give you an opportunity to appreciate, understand, and how to do a proper project initiation. I hope you are enjoying the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So generally, when you are running a project, probably as a program manager or even as a project manager, there is a stage in a project called project initiation. It normally comes after the project startup. If you want to understand more about project startup, I've also done a video on project startup. You can check it on my channel so that at least you can appreciate. So the first item to come is the project mandate, which means the authorization from the either organization or the project board to start running the project. So after your mandate, which is quite critical, I also have a video on project mandate. You now have the authority to start the project as a project manager. The reason why I'm focusing on the project manager right now is the project manager is the owner of the project initiation stage. So once you get your mandate, you have started the project in the project startup phase, you move on to the next stage, which is project initiation, and which is the focus of this video. So in this particular phase, I'm going to take you through the number of activities that you have to perform in the project initiation stage. And then I'll also give you a reference or a link on how I used it to save this particular project. So the flow of a project initiation process, it comes once the project executive or project sponsor has been appointed by the corporate or the organization which is initiating this project. And if by any chance the project manager was not appointed during the mandate process, it will be the responsibility of a project executive to make sure that there's an appointment of a project manager. So a project executive is a quite important role in a project. If you want to understand more about the project sponsor or project executive, I have a video on the roles and responsibilities of a project executive. So once the executive has been appointed, and also once they've appointed a project manager, you have gone past the startup phase, the project manager becomes responsible for the initiation stage. If you want a template on the project initiation documentation, I've also created a link in the description below where you can access the list of documentation or products that you have to create during the project initiation stage. So during initiation stage, there are so many processes, there are so many activities that you have to perform as a project manager. One of them is to create a consolidated set or list of plans on how you are going to deliver the project. So this list of plans, in most cases, they are called project initiation documentation. Some I've heard them saying project documentation report, and others they even say project charter. So what is expected during this phase is, number one, you're expected to prepare the risk management strategy document. This is very critical. Risk management strategy document. So you might be asking, Oscar, what is this risk management strategy document? I've also done a video on the risk management process in a project. You can also check it on my channel to appreciate how do you manage risks from the beginning of the project all the way up to the end of the project. It's quite critical that you know that as a project manager. Risk management, in a nutshell, in a project is managing uncertainty. I have to be honest with you. There's no way you can run a project with certainty. There are some things which are going to change during the process. There are some incoming issues which are going to come. There are also some outgoing challenges that you're going to face. The advantage of looking at a risk management process during the initiation stage is at least there are some very obvious risks or challenges or issues that you can pick from the beginning. And I can tell you from my experience, it is easier to work on something that you thought about before it happened than for something that is going to come during the project and then you face it as a challenge. You might find it very difficult to come up with a quick solution to resolve it. So the purpose of going through this risk management strategy document is to think about what can go wrong or what can happen that is going to affect either the whole project, or it's going to affect the project deliverables, or it's going to affect the actual project products. So once you start thinking about that, you also want to know, in case it happens, how am I going to react to that? We normally call it risk responses. So risk responses is actually a big topic, and I've also done a video on risk responses, which you can also check on my channel and also understand what it means. But in a nutshell, what it means is there's going to be a risk which is going to materialize. In project management terms, we say an issue. How are you going to respond to that? That is very, very important. So risk responses are also very important, and they are going to be part of your strategy. They are going to be part of your plan on the risk management strategy. So you might also want to think about how to categorize some of these risks throughout the project. Risk categorization is very important. I've also done a video on risk categorization in case you want to check it on my channel. So what are we talking about when we say risk categorization? We are now talking about how do we track and how do we put groups to these risks. For example, I normally use the PESTEL abbreviation, which is the political, economic, social, technology, and also legal, and also environment. So, but there is no one size fits all. It all depends on the type of project, on the industry of project. Some projects you don't need to use PESTEL. Some projects you need to come up with other categories. I can give you a good example. When I was running a project during the COVID era, we all know about how COVID came about into this world. We ended up with a category called healthy. So there were risks to do with healthy. You could lose any of your key members. You could lose even the whole team. So we end up with a category. So you're not supposed to have, you're not supposed to be limited to specific categories, but you come up with those categories depending either on the organizational policies, organizational procedures, your past experience, your skills, the type of project, and so on and so forth. So risk management strategy document is very important. Going back to this project, which was a banking project I'm talking about, it was one of the items I realized it was missing. The only good thing I saw on the risk part of it, they had a risk person or a risk representation from the organization. But the focus of this resource or this project member was mainly on the risk register. Risk register is also very important. I have a video on risk register. You can also check it. However, the risk person did not take a step backwards and then started thinking and planning about risk management. So at the end of the day, what actually happened was the risk register was there, but how to respond, who was going to be the risk owner, what were the risk categories, who was the risk actionee in terms of what was the impact, the proximity, and so on and so forth. All those items were not planned for. So risk strategy document is very good at high level. We are thinking about risk in the future of the project. We are not talking about how to act on the individual risk item. That is done on the risk register. So in this particular banking project, this was not there. So what I had to do was to sit down with the bank members, including that risk member I was talking about. We drafted the risk strategy document. The risk strategy document was very critical because it also helped us to plan on how to react in case a particular risk is materialized. So that was very, very critical, and it was very, very important. I hope you are enjoying the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So the next activity that is expected during project initiation, it is to do with quality management strategy document. Let me tell you one thing. You have been hearing so many project managers, even myself, I had so many project managers, so many project members, so many board members, and even so many organizational management saying that triple constraints, triple constraints. Then I could see there was a big problem. So what do they mean by triple constraints? They're just saying if a project is going to be successful, it must meet the triple constraints. So they are now referring to cost. They are also referring to time. They are also referring to scope. To be honest with you, I don't see the logic of a project producing something that is substandard. What is the value of producing something which is not fit for purpose? What is the value of producing something which is not even usable? So this is where the item of quality comes into play. So even if triple constraints is still very important, but you should not forget about quality. Quality is a very, very important item in a project environment. So during project initiation, what is expected is you should be coming up with strategy and plans on how are you going to manage quality in the project. Take it from me, this is a very serious item. I've seen so many projects being delivered on time, being delivered within budget, but producing something that is not usable. At the end of the day, that product was thrown away. So it was a waste of time, it was a waste of effort. So quality is very important in a project environment. So in your quality analysis during initiation stage, you have to make sure that you have checked how are you going to maintain the quality records, who is going to own the quality process, to what frequency are you going to check the quality, is it going to be in process, or is it going to be appraisal process of checking the quality? And how are you going to be reporting the quality? Also, what tools are you going to use for the quality management? So all that information, you capture it through the project initiation stage and using the quality management strategy document. So now going back to my example of the project which I saved. I saw a 3-page quality document. That was my first time to see such a summarized quality document. I'm not saying it should be very big, but what I was expecting within the contents of the document, I did not see it. For example, how the reporting of quality was supposed to be done, how the reporting of quality was supposed to be done, the recording of quality documents, and also the quality approach that was going to be used. So there were so many missing information in that document. So what I had to do was to sit down again with the bank, and we went through how we were going to maintain quality in the implementation of this system. Remember, the bank was changing from an old system to a new system. So the advantage I had was there was already a team, although not enough in terms of skills and headcount, but there was already a team from the vendor side, and there was also a team from the bank side. So we had to have a session, quality management strategy session, with these team members. So it was very easy because people were coming from different backgrounds, and therefore it was very easy for us to share that knowledge. So we went through the session and we came up with a solid quality management strategy document. I'll show you on the screen a summary of it. So this was forming also the backbone and the foundation of the project going into the future. So it is very important that during project initiation stage as a project manager, you nail down in terms of quality management. I've also done a video on quality management in case you want to appreciate and understand more about how you do quality management in a project. You can also watch it from my channel. The third action that is expected during project initiation stage is to do with what is called configuration management. I know in some other quarters they want to call it version control. Actually, I like more on version control than configuration because it will confuse people. This is all about version control. So there's also a configuration management strategy document or version control management strategy document. You also need this. This is very, very important in a project. There's no way you're going to have everything constant from the beginning all the way up to the end, unless if it is a very, very small project. But still, in some of the very small projects, you'll find that your business case might change, your requirements might change, your event stages might also change, even your plans, your activity plans or activity schedule, it can also change. So what do we mean by configuration or version control strategy document? We want to come up or want to foresee throughout the project if there's going to be any change in any of the either deliverables, any of the products that we are going to create, or any of these packages that we are going to change as we go through the project. How are we going to control that? I don't think you want someone to have an authorized access to change any of your documentation. So what I've seen in most projects, this role is normally played by the project support or project administrator. So what if you want to understand more again about project administrator, I have a video on the roles and responsibilities of a project administrator. You can also check it on my channel. So the project administrator has to make sure that these products we are creating or deliverables we are creating in the project, they are stored somewhere. It could be in the cloud, a local machine, or even local one, which is a local network. They have to make sure that they are stored in a secure place, which has got limited access. In case someone wants to change something, they make a copy of the existing and latest version, and then they give the next version number, then to the person who wants to change. Say, for example, there's a requirements document. Obviously, you need to make a copy of the current requirements, put the next version number, then give it to the person who wants to change, normally is the user, and then the user can also change now the version and then send it back to the project support. Don't normally do that as a project manager. It's too much of administrative work, and that is why we have a role for project support and also for the project administration in a project. If your configuration management document gives you an opportunity to think about what is going to change throughout the project, okay? And if it's going to change, who is going to own what? Who is going to keep the records? How are you filing the records? How are you going to report from those records? So it is also very, very critical that you have this configuration or version control management strategy document during your initiation stage. So now going back to my project, I realized that there was nothing that was done on the ground in terms of the version control strategy. So I had no other option but to bring in also the same team leaders, which I had created a list of team leaders. If you want to understand about how to structure a project, I also have a video on structuring a project. We had to go through and foresee from the beginning all the way up to the end of the project what is likely going to change and who is going to own that. So we ended up coming up with a configuration strategy management document. I've also done a video on configuration strategy management document. You can also check it on my channel if you want to understand more. So the next activity is to do with communication management strategy document. It's part of the activity in the initiation stage. So in all these strategy documents, we are talking about what you need to do, your plan. Don't make a mistake I've seen with so many project managers, even team members, team managers, even program managers. They think that a plan is only a list of activities or a schedule of activities. That is part of the plan. A plan includes all the strategy, the list of activities, ownership, expected results, measurement, and so on and so forth. Even dependencies, constraints, assumptions, and so on and so forth. So communication is very, very important in a project. And I can tell you, from my own experience and my own view, communication is the #1 skill you should have as a project member, as a project manager, or even a project director, or even a program manager, even a project board member. I know some might disagree with me. That is okay. But if you look at it holistically, there's nothing that you do in a project or program environment which doesn't require communication. Take, for example, we are talking about this project initiation. You are still going to communicate what you have done. We talk about planning. You are still going to communicate what you have planned. We are talking about phases. We are talking about stages. You are also still going to communicate what you're going to do in that stage, what you have done in the previous stage. So communication management strategy document is very important, and it should be drafted during the project initiation stage. So what are we expecting in the communication strategy document? We are expecting items like stakeholder analysis. We are also expecting items like who to communicate to, how to communicate, when to communicate, and also why are you supposed to communicate. So it is quite important that you understand communication in a project setup. If you want more details on how to master communication in a project setup, I have a video on project communication. You can also watch it and also appreciate and master the art of communication in a project environment. So communication is very, very important. And I can tell you, as you are drafting the risk management strategy document, the quality management strategy document, the version control or configuration management strategy document, you are always communicating, either with the project members or you're communicating with the project board. So it is quite important that you do communication towards the end. That's what I normally do in my project. I do communication management strategy document towards the end of initiation. You might be asking, Oscar, why are you doing that? You see, there are a number of items or stakeholders you might pick as you come down to the end of project initiation. So once you pick those ones, it gives you an opportunity to add them into the communication strategy document. So that is why I normally have the communication strategy documents right towards the end. But it is one of the most important activities. You also need to make sure that you have a communication strategy document in your project. So now going back to my project, the one which I saved, at least to some extent, those who came before me for that project, there were 3 project managers before me, they done a bit of justice in terms of communication. They were actually so much in terms of content in the communication document. Although it was not named communication management strategy document, but at least they had the project communication document. So there were just a few areas I had to correct. There were also a few areas I had to add in terms of sections. So at the end of the day, we were able to move forward. So the areas which I added, mostly it was to do with communication methods. You could be using email. You can also even use any verbal or even phone call communication. Then also we looked at tools of communication in the project. This day and age, we now have Teams for communication, that's for meetings. We also have Zoom and so on and so forth. So we had to add that into the communication strategy document. Then that enabled us to create a very solid foundation in terms of how we are going to manage communication going forward, the frequency of communication, what stages are we going to communicate? For example, is it weekly or is it going to be monthly? Is it going to be, things like that. So we defined that in the communication strategy document. And remember, this was being done as a team. It was not just being done by one person. Don't make a mistake which most project managers do. They think when you're doing project initiation, you lock yourself into a certain room for 3-4 weeks, and then you come back with a very solid project initiation document. Don't do that. There is no one who has got monopoly over knowledge. So you need a team to work with that is going to help you to create these strategy documents. So communication is also very important, and that is one of the items which I also made sure that it was existing and we had to polish it up to make sure that we move forward. So the next activity that is also very important during project initiation stage is also the setting up of controls and the monitoring processes. So you might be asking, Oscar, what are these things all about? Let me tell you, as you move from the start of the project all the way up to the closure of the project, you must have some way to see whether you are on track or you're not on track, whether you're producing the right things or you're not producing the right things, or whether you are able to reach the point where you're supposed to reach, and is everyone working towards the same goal? Is everyone working towards the same objectives? So you also need to set up the monitoring tools and controls. For example, controls are normally in 2 categories. The first one is management control. Then the second one is technical control. So you might also have questions, Oscar, can you expand on this? I'm going to expand on them. So what I've seen in most projects throughout my experience is management control comes from the project board or from the project manager. I've also done a video on the role of the project board. You can also check it on my channel. So what does management control mean? You'll find that in most cases, there's an agreement, upfront agreement, in terms of what we call stages in a project. Some they want to call them phases, but I believe it's the same thing. So the project board might say, can you segregate your project into blocks? Okay. We want to know at what point, which block are you working at? At what point, at each point, we also want to know which block has been completed. So these phases or stages, they are very, very important. So how do you make sure it has control? At each particular phase, the project board might want to know the status for them to either revisit the business case just to confirm that the project is still viable and it's going to be of benefit to the organization. So that is also another way of controlling in a project. You put it into phases or you put it into stages. Then for each and every stage, you focus on it. You might be asking, how do we define a stage? How do we define a phase? Normally, a stage or a phase is a block of activities that can be done at once or in parallel. What it means is, say for example, you have 10 activities. You can do those 10 activities, assess the project, especially in terms of benefits and also in terms of the baselines. There are quite a number of baselines that you can use to assess. If you want to understand more about project baselines, I have a video on project baselines. You can also watch it from my channel. So based on the assessment, the project board might say proceed or stop the project. So that is on the management side, an example of it, which is the blogged side. If you have got blogs, then on the technical side, you also have the controls. For example, if it's something that can be done in terms of measurement, you can measure the products as you go. Especially if you're producing a physical product, you can have engineers who can measure depending on the type of project. Depending on the type of product, you can have engineers who can also be measuring the product as you go. That is also part of control. The other item on the control side, it could be something to do with, say for example, meetings. You'll find in some cases you want to have weekly meetings just to make sure that at least the team is gaining momentum, the right momentum to deliver the project. Some they want it weekly, some yearly. It depends on the type of project, industry, and also the period of the project. So controls and monitoring are very, very important. Sometimes you also need to go into reporting. How do you report progress? How do you report exceptions? How do you report challenges, issues, risks, and so on and so forth? Those also form part of the control. So now going back to my project, I realized that there were just a few controls that were in place. At least in terms of stages and phases, that was in place, which was good for the project, and that was good for those who came before me. Then we had to discuss again in terms of controls for meetings. So normally what I do with my projects is I have meetings at 3 levels. The first one is on the project board level, and then the second one is on the team manager level, which I call work stream leads. Then the last one is on the team member level. So one of the items I had to change or I had to add into this project was weekly meetings, which we used to call project management committee meeting, PMC, others they call it project working committee, PWC, but it's the same thing. So on a weekly basis, I was making sure that I'm meeting with all the work stream leads. Remember the structure, project structure, which I was talking about. You have your project board, project manager, you have team managers, and then you have team members. So on a weekly basis, I had to make sure that we meet with project workstream leads or project team managers from the vendor side and also from the bank side. So that was very critical to make sure that if there are some issues which were not being reported formally, at least during those meetings, we could pick them, record them, and then act on them. So the other control we also had was also on a daily monitoring process. You might be asking, Oscar, why daily? You know, this day and age, people can work from anywhere. It's no longer something that is controlled by the geographical location of anyone. So the people are connecting online. So therefore, it's not very easy if you're working with someone who is thousands and thousands of kilometers away from where you are to manage them. So every morning, we used to have a team meeting. The purpose of that team meeting was to look at any urgent items or issues in the project that requires attention either from the project manager or from the project board. So it was only a 30 minutes meeting. Don't make it long. Otherwise, people will spend more time in meetings than doing the work. So every 30 minutes, Monday to Thursday, we used to have this meeting. And then on a Friday, we used to have the workstream lead meeting, which is the PMC I was talking about, or PWC, Project Working Committee. And then we also had a monthly project board meeting, just to update them, to appraise them on what is going on. So that is also part of monitoring and control that I had to apply in this particular project to set the foundation for future success and for sure we are successful. The other expected activity during project initiation is also to revisit the business case. I know some of you might not have understood what does the business case mean. Business case is the validity. It is the reason why the project is being executed. But you find that during the initial stages, especially during startup or during the mandate, or even during the decision to start a project, the business case, it's not very, very clear. In some cases, they call it quick and dead. But as you go down into project initiation, because you want to plan for this, you have to make sure that you have now a detailed business case. And after going through those strategy documents I was talking about, you can even start seeing some other benefits which you can add into your business case. So it is also the right time you need to update the business case in the project initiation stage. So going back to my project, the business case was very summarized. And it was going like this. We want to change from the old system to the new system so that we can increase revenue, so that we can sell more product. So yes, at that stage, that was very meaningful, and it was giving an idea on what the project is supposed to do. But as I joined the project, went into initiation stage, I said to the team, we need to expand the business case. We also need to expand on the benefits. We also need to plan on the benefits review plan. How are we going to check that the benefits have been realized? So we went through the business case, expanding where it was necessary, adding more benefits, and even adding more expectations, which were not diverting or which were not deviating from what was originally agreed. So it's also quite important that during project initiation, you go through the business case once again. Business case is actually a living document. Don't always think that a business case is something that you do today, you close, you lock it somewhere else, you never touch it. No. A business case is a living document. What does a living document mean in project management? It means it's something that you can come and update as and when the need arises. So business case, you can even also update it after every phase. Remember, I was talking about the blocks or the stages. You can also come and update it, especially as you discover probably more requirements, more benefits, and so on and so forth. But just make sure that it doesn't deviate from the original scope so that you don't run a project in perpetuity. That is very, very important. I hope you are enjoying the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So after your business case is done, this is now time to do project planning in project initiation phase. I'm not saying there was no plan at all. You find that after the mandate, especially if you are selecting an external vendor to implement the project, they normally come up with their schedule or plan to say, this is expected to run for 18 months, for example, 2 years, 10 years, 3 years, 50 years, whatever number of years that you've agreed on the project. And they have a high level, I want to call it a high level, very high level delivery plan on how do they expect phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 like that, month 1, month 2, month 3 like that. From my experience, I have to warn you, those plans or schedules, they are normally done by salespeople. And they're not very good when it comes to planning as compared to project managers. If you disagree with that statement from me, let me know in the comment section. But I have to be honest with you, the high-level plans normally are done by the salespeople, and they normally do it for the sake of completing the deal, which I can understand, because me, I'm from a delivery point of view. So you find the high levels, they are not as good as something that has been done in detail by project manager. So you take that high-level agreement, normally you might find it from the statement of work, or even from the project brief. Project brief, they're just also putting details like how long are you going to run the project. You might be interested in knowing more about the project brief. I have also a video on project brief. You can also check it on my channel. So this plan is always high level. And what I can pick from there is normally the period. They might say 1 year, 18 months, or 2 years. The rest of the other details, you need to expand them. You need to reword them. Some of them you need to drop them. Some of them you need even to change them. For the sake of not making this episode too long, I've also done the next episode on project planning so that you appreciate how I do project planning. There's something called product-based planning. That is what I normally use. It's a very powerful approach to project planning. So project planning is part of project initiation, but I've segregated it on a different video so that it becomes very clear and this video does not become very long. So I would encourage you to also watch the next episode, which is on project planning. So you now have your strategy document, your risk strategy document, your quality strategy document. You now have even your communication strategy document. You now have your configuration, version control strategy document. You have revisited your business case. You have now controls and also monitoring tools in place. You also have your project plan in place. Now comes a time where you now have to collate all these documents into one. I know there are some who might say, Oscar, that is a voluminous document. I do appreciate and agree on that. But it is also very important that you have a consolidation of these items, which you are going to share with the project board as part of the approval for you to proceed with the project. So you collate this information into one document called Project Initiation Documentation. It will be one, which means all the strategies, you put them there. And then once you collate it into one, you now seek approval. You might be asking, Oscar, why should this be approved? The project initiation documentation, or in short, if you want it, you can call it project charter or project documentation report. It is going to form the contract between the project manager or the project team and the project board. Hence, it must be signed. And my advice is always have either first or second page of the project charter or project initiation document as a sign-off page, so that when you present it to project board members, they can quickly see that they're expected to sign off the document. As much as they might want to skim through the document, but that signature is very important. And I can tell you, don't ever run a project without that document signed. The project charter, the project initiation documentation should be signed by the project board. The reason why it should be signed is time and again, you want to be able to refer to this. Remember, this is initiation stage, where probably you're also using your project members, your vendors, and so on and so forth. And I can tell you from my experience, at this stage, you all have sober minds. There are no emotions, there's no blame game, and so on and so forth. So those documents, the way you create them, they are very, very rich in terms of objectives of the project. But as you go deeper into the project implementation and execution, there are going to be some tensions, you cannot avoid it. There are going to be some conflicts, you cannot avoid them. There are also going to be some conflicts, you cannot avoid them. There are also going to be some emotions, you cannot even avoid them. There's going to be some disagreements, you're not going to even avoid them. So you want to be able to make reference. So this is where now you need to go back to this documentation. What did we say if this particular risk materializes? Okay? In terms of communication, who are the stakeholders? What frequency of communication? You know, things like that, and so on and so forth. In terms of quality, what are the quality records are we supposed to maintain? So that is also very, very important. If you want me to create additional videos based on what we have discussed in this video, or you want me to revisit any specific concept which was not clear, you can also reach out to me, or you can let me know in the comment section below.